This is the Colorado Hunting Hub podcast, where we cover hunting in the West, but mostly hunting in the destination state of Colorado. You will find information that will help you plan, prepare, and motivate you for your hunt, but also keep you updated on happenings in the Western hunting world. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
Nothing got a deed to the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Colorado Hunting Hub. I've got an episode today with my buddy Bruce, who was with Whitetail Rendezvous podcast, and the gentleman that got me started with podcasting. And so got to meet him through some mutual friends, and we'll tell that story. But we'll jump right into that about some prairie deer hunting. That's our focus today, and some tactics, things to think about. We're talking about Eastern Colorado, but this applies to quite a few states that are still out west here. Thinking about that open prairie, open rangeland, egg fields where there's not a lot of cover, how we're hunting whitetail mule deer in this kind of country. So before we get to that, I want to thank you listeners again for all your continued support. Even trying a couple different things here in the new year. We're going to do a kickoff of some new stuff, but not telling you any more than that. May include an opportunity here for some advertising space. So if you own a company that does something that's nationwide, then get a hold of me. We got some advertising space, pretty simple and cheap. $5 to $20 an episode. I don't know. We'll work a deal. So not too spendy for advertising space at all. And we've got hunters across the country that are going to hear this. And we are coming up on 10,000 downloads since April. So I appreciate all you listeners as we reach that 10,000 mark. I think this episode will do it. That's kind of a nice milestone. I remember the first day I published an episode, and I watched my first download hit, my second, my third, my fourth, the fifth, up to 10, and I was jacked, texting some of those close people in my life that I was telling that I was doing this thing, and seeing those first downloads was kind of a fun thing. Now seeing 10,000 is great, and I'm excited to see that 100,000 next time, because that's a big number, and we're going to hit that at some point. Dre and I have some goals and some ambitions, and we're going to continue to bring you some really good content. So thank you, listeners, for all that support. Reach out to us if you need anything, got questions, comments, or ideas. We want to hear them, and that info is below, along with some of our other partnerships and things we got going on. You can see that info below and some discount codes. So here's our interview with Bruce. All right, Bruce, thanks for jumping on the podcast. You originally were the guy that helped me get this thing started, and 55 episodes later, finally got you on, and I'll tell everybody how we got introduced. But first off, let's hear who you are. Introduce yourself, who you are, and I'd like to hear what hunts you got going on.
Yep, my name is Bruce Hutcheon. Some of you might know me from my Whitetail Rendezvous days, when I had a very successful podcast that closed a year ago. We shut it down because, unfortunately, we weren't monetizing it for a lot of different reasons, and that's okay. And then in January, with Whitetail Rendezvous, I had over 500,000 downloads. I had over 700 guests, and it was a great journey, and met some great people. So if you're into podcasting, people, do it because you love it, not because you can make some money. Yes, some people do make money at it, but they're few and far between, in my opinion. So in January, a good friend of mine in Wisconsin, John O'Brien, who owns Grandpa Ray Outdoors, a great food plot educator. He goes around the country every winter and educates people about food plots, and he also sells seed. And so he calls me up and out of the blue and said, I want to sponsor a new podcast. I said, John, it's going to cost $100 a month. I won't do it for anything less. He said, okay, fine. And so he sponsored, I think we had 40 or 50 shows, and I just stopped that because I'm hunting now. And I just stopped that, because I'm saying, it's I'm 74 years old, and there's other things I want to do that are more important. I want to write, and I have one book on Amazon, Hunting with the Experts. I have another one, business book called 100 to 100, both on Amazon. And so I've got some other things in the works that still are going to be in the outdoors. I am a voting member of POMA, Professional Outdoor Media Association, which I recommend. If you're going to be in media, you need to be a member of POMA. So there's a shout out for POMA. But having said all that, I'm 74 years old. I get an MDA. I've worked 26, 30 years and retired about 10, 15 years ago. And all that time, my only passion simply was hunting and fly fishing. I've been fortunate to go from Ungava Bay, which is 1,000 miles north of Montreal, all the way out to Bristol Bay and all the provinces in between. And I'm very fortunate. And no, I'm a working guy just like the rest of us. I'm not a millionaire. I guess in my lifetime, I made a couple $1 million. But I sure as heck raising 2 kids and living.
It's gone.
That didn't last long. It's gone. It's gone. Yeah. It's gone. But my one thing in my introduction, I would say, if you are passionate about something, my passion and Clint's passion is hunting, and my other passion is fly fishing. And if you're passionate about it, figure out how to do it, because when I look back, I just lost a 40-year-old friend to cancer. And one of his last conversations with me is, he said, I just wish I had more time, and I just wish I had done more with the time I had.
That's good advice. And that's something that I focused on. And the reason why I started this podcast was just to have some fun. And I've said it a couple times in this podcast, I ain't making any money doing it. That's for sure. It's just, I'm an educator, and whether your field was not, and what you did for a career was not educator, but you're an educator. You are an educator, and how you've gone about sharing your passion in the outdoors and what you've done with your writing. So thanks for plugging your books. I didn't know those existed. So we'll have to check those out. And you and I met through a mutual friend. I got a wonderful couple friend, TJ and Jackie Gusini. Just got off the phone actually with TJ a second ago, but Jackie won the Extreme Hunters competition, and you guys have probably met through POMA, I would assume.
Yeah, we met through POMA, and we met through I interviewed and had all the extreme hunters and the ultimate extreme hunters on my podcast during the years, and help promote that worthwhile event, because it promotes women in the sports. And Jackie is unbelievable. Folks, if you don't know her, friend her on Facebook, and she's an unbelievable lady. She works for Exxon, and she's down in Texas now, but they still have a home up in Silt. But the biggest thing, everybody with Extreme Hunters was extremely high ambassadors for women in the outdoors.
She, you can probably find her at Bo Crazy with Jackie is I think her handle. And they had us over just the other night. She made some crawfish étouffée. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And I know you've probably had a meal at her house or two. And oh my.
Or two.
Yeah, that was I had it on an omelet yesterday morning, and I'm going to have it tonight, some leftovers. It's good. So yeah, and so we met. You were out western Colorado here, archery elk hunting, and with a buddy, and we were checking on a spot, and I just happened to be there with them. So as we were standing there, not looking at any elk that we could shoot at, we just started chatting a little bit, and that was pre-podcast. I was in my position now still with outdoor education, and we started talking a little around that, and then hit the pandemic, and then March, April, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. This is how I'm going to do my thing with the thing that I enjoy. It's just like you were saying, and you've been a big help with that. I really, really appreciate those phone calls and guiding me through some process. So I feel like we got a good start, and things have been going well. We're just about to hit 10,000 downloads, and
Great.
yeah, and we've been going since April. So again, yeah, not making any money doing it, but we're having fun. And I just picked up a partner in this. She's a female hunting guide, and I know the listeners know that already because we've been chatting about it. And she's about ready to jump on and record, be a co-host with. So it's going to be a fun deal there to get a whole nother perspective and to bring in some female audience, because I don't know of another podcast that has a male and female hunting podcast that has a male and female host that's going to bring in that kind of those two different audiences. So I think that's going to be a good thing for the listeners.
Yeah. Just to throw that out, Meadow Caulfield was also in the Extreme Hunters contest, and every once in a while, not as a full time, but she was a co-host when we were getting women, and that's how I met just a lot of tremendous women. Lenny Oakley Barnes with the DC organization, and she's a world-class shooter. I met her just through Meadow, and just a lot of neat ladies. So that's a smart move. That's a really smart move for you to change up your demographics and pull from different areas.
Right. So I kind of want to get into the topic for what I wanted to chat with you about, and that's I picked up a tag on the Eastern Plains. Unit doesn't really matter. I guess I don't want to draw too much attention to it, but it was on the leftover list, but it was not on there for more than a minute and a half, I would say. It was me getting super lucky, seeing the posting, buying it. It took 3 points to draw this tag, but I'm on the Western Slope. I'm having a hard time with life going on, getting over there to scout it. It's prairie and agricultural fields is something new, and I feel like a guy that's in Connecticut coming out to Colorado to hunt, you have that complete blind, no idea what you're getting into necessarily, because he may have not been here, and so that's the where my mind is at right now. And this can include those whitetail mule deer hunts on the plains of eastern Colorado, western Nebraska, Kansas, the prairies of South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana. It's all that open country, rangeland, mixed in with egg fields with lots of irrigation pivots. This unit is 10% public, and you shared some information with me. I appreciate that. I dug into those stats a little bit, so that was cool to see. And so where I'm at now, I got a tag. My initial research that I did was I called up the biologist that I interviewed and on a previous episode and got the game warden's name in the area. So called up the game warden. I had some specific questions, not just about trophy class, but around what kind of areas to target. And so far what I got is dry creek beds and looking for that little bit of cover. But there's big mule deer in this area. I've heard big whitetail. Kind of excited about it. Now that I'm getting a little bit more information. And then the next thing I did was
should be excited.
Oh, yeah.
Told you that.
I know.
You should be excited.
And so I may have spent a couple hours when I was supposed to be doing some work and had on my big screen Google Earth set up, and I had Onyx set up on the other screen, because that you can't really see the topography. When the topography only changes about 200 feet throughout the entire unit, it's tough to really see some of the topography. So I pulled up Google Earth, and that was really, really helpful. And I was able to take a sort of area that the game warden told me about and around there and find some pieces of public land that are all walk-in areas. And then there's the state trust lands, which are brand new this year, a bunch of those that are open because of that opening of state trust lands, and they were going to just open them up for this starting this year. And so some of those are new and even still showing on Onyx that there's no public access. So I've looked those areas up on the Colorado Parks and Wildlife maps that they have published on their website. So that's been a big help because there's a few chunks of 1,000 acres there that I can go play on, and so that's where I'm at, and trying to figure out, all right, when I get there, what am I doing next? What kind of game plan should I have? It's gonna be a tight schedule. I'm totally gonna be a weekend hunter. There's only 36 tags in the unit, so pressure shouldn't be too terrible unless there's, that's including landowner tags. So that's it shouldn't be too bad. I may run into some other folks, but not too many. What do you got for me? What else should I do? And then we'll talk strategies.
Well, I think I sent you the unit from Go Hunting. Just folks, some of my expertise when Go Hunt got started, I don't know how many, 10 years ago or whenever, I wrote over 200 profiles for Colorado. I've lived in Colorado since '85, and I've hunted a lot of units for deer, for elk, for sheep, for mountain goats, and elk and whitetails. Anyway, and so with that knowledge, I shared with Clint. And the biggest thing I want to say is, I don't care if you're in Bangor, Maine, and want to come out west hunting and can get a tag and can get out here. You can do a tremendous amount of scouting, as Clint already has, by using the tools. You have to buy the tools. Google Earth is free, but Onyx isn't free. Go Hunt Insider isn't free. Eastern, I think, not Eastern, Eastman's, they're not free. But if you're going to spend a couple $1,000 getting out here, invest in getting to know your territory, because it'll show you where these deer are going to be. Because I can go on Google Earth and I can marry that up with Onyx, and I can tell you with 80% certainty where you're going to find deer. And how do I do that? Well, it's real simple. They need food, they need water, and they need cover. And you're looking out, and I'm looking, I can see over 100 miles right where I'm sitting on this ridge. I can see Twin Peaks down south, and I can see to the ridge to the west. So Twin Peaks is 100 miles, and I can see at least 30, 40 miles to the west out to the prairie. The deer like contours and like small depressions. It doesn't have to be a gorge or arroyo. It's just small depressions. That's their travel corridors. Okay, they like food. Food's easy to figure out. If there's a pivot out there, it's probably on private land. You're probably not going to get into it. But where do the deer lay up before they go on the pivot? That's what you're going to find out. It's a chess game.
And a lot of those walk-in areas they don't include the pivot, the field, but the prairie around it. That's a lot.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot of those areas.
And so in that, you look for the fence row, you look for clusters of sagebrush stack, you look for, old broken down cottonwoods. Any place there's any kind of cover, your chances of finding deer in there is good. Why? Because they like it. The older the deer, the better. Or like if you're hunting in Kansas, Nebraska, they get out in the sunflower seeds, just like Wisconsin deer get out in the cornfields in Iowa, cornfields in Minnesota, and they stay in the cornfield. Why? Because you can't see them. And they get their food there. All they have to do is move to get water. And so you have to think outside of the box, because you're not hunting in your back 40. There ain't a tree around. If you can find drainages, then there's going to be some cottonwoods, and I guarantee you there's deer there. Now, how many other people are going to be hunting that? Okay, where's their entrance and exit going to where they're feeding? And so it becomes a puzzle, and I think it's fun, because once you figure it out and get that buck of your lifetime in your crosshairs and pull the trigger, you had to do a tremendous amount of work just to pull the trigger. Pulling the trigger is easy. It's finding them. And we're talking about world-class deer in eastern Colorado. I know places that charge $8,000 to $10,000 to hunt their ranches. That's how big a deer there are out there.
Oh boy.
And yeah, there just are. And the same deer, the same habitat is around those areas. And what the hardest thing for Clint or anybody coming to eastern Colorado, okay, where do I go? And just don't go to the Arkansas River. Everybody knows it's the river, there's cover, there's deer there, but don't hunt that. Find out the small little areas, state trust lands, 1,000 acres. Well, I can't, 1,000 acres is nothing out here. Well, if it has the right food, cover, and water, there'll be deer there. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I clicked and put waypoints on, clicking on a couple of these. I mean, there's one that's 400 acres. There's one that's 200 acres. 162 acres. They're just small little patches of property. And I don't know, I got 25 of them. So I'll be able to check in each one and spend some time, kind of probably a decent amount in the truck. But I tried to find some of those high spots so that I can get into a little area and just glass and check out into those dry creek beds and see something moving. And one thing you shared with me on because this is a late season hunt, so it's December 1st to the 14th. One thing you can't get from Onyx on there is some of these little statements like it says bucks often rut well into the season. Some bucks have broken antlers from fighting other bucks. Well, that's kind of a fun little detail, but not super necessary. But the first part is I wasn't sure. I know I watched a buck yesterday morning in my yard with his nose in a butt trying to chase that doe around. And so right now I know
it's that time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going on. But I was like, well, December 1st to the 14th, what's going to be happening then? So apparently, they've seen some activity. They're not, maybe those does are coming back into cycle again and they're getting that last little bit. I'm sure it won't be as hot and heavy as the rut right now, but looks like I still got a chance it's not completely over.
Right, because typically mature does come into estrus first. Why? Because they're mature does. And then it trickles down so that 30 days from the first breeding, whenever that is, whatever that date is, and there is a date. Okay, 30 days from then, there's another cycle. And that's when the yearlings of the year that mature or ovulate get bred. And the bucks know that. So really, the bucks never stop looking. They know there's a break. They know there's a lockdown period where they're breeding. Does that take 24 or 48 hours to receptive doe? That depends on your area. But then they get up and go find another doe. So we're talking about deer densities here. The buck to doe density, the higher the buck ratio is, the more broken horns you'll have because they're competing. If you don't see a lot of bucks with broken horns, then there's plenty of does to go around.
That's a good point. And I think it is in here, the buck to doe ratio, what you shared with me, 41 to 100. So that's quite a bit. So that makes sense. You got to watch for. I mean, not a big deal to have a broken tine here and there, but you hope for it not to happen.
No, in some places, on some farms Midwest, every single buck will have a broken tine. My neighbor shot a gorgeous 130, 140, and he lost 5 inches because one of his tines was broken off. That means to me that we have way too many does and it's too competitive. We already knew that, though. We already knew that. And this was a mature deer, 3.5-year-old deer. And so all this comes back to saying, okay, what can I expect? What will happen, when I get out there? The other thing, and you mentioned it, the best thing you can do, sun up and sundown, get to that high spot and look over and glass with the best glass you got and look for deer that evening and look for does. Okay, if you find does, you're probably going to find bucks. Unfortunately, whitetails will stay in an area. Mule deer, not so much, because they're travelers.
Yeah.
And so you have to remember that. If you see, he's on this 1,000-acre and, he's with that doe and stuff, you come back tomorrow and he might be 5 miles away because he took care of business and he's off.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, they're in an area that's mix of whitetail and mule deer, and it sounds like a little bit more mule deer than the whitetail from what the officer told me. What different strategies would you go about in this process or in your hunt? Because if I run into a 150-inch whitetail, I'm going to have a hard time passing that thing. I'm going to
shoot it.
Yeah,
shoot it.
It's going to get shot.
Shoot it.
I'm not passing 100. And I'm going to have
a 150-inch whitetail, shoot it. If there's large deer out there. So there's Boone and Crockett class deer. If you see a 160, you go, and if it doesn't trip your trigger, don't shoot it. You see a 170, he's gnarly, and you said, I want that on my wall, then shoot it. I mean, it's your hunt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm not, my biggest mule deer is 160-inch, and I mounted him because he's gorgeous. He's dark. He's got character, kickers, and bladed brow tines. It's just gorgeous buck, and it was a fun hunt. And I don't have a good whitetail, so yeah. I should.
So 150, I don't, and you might say, there's bigger ones out here. I saw the one I saw last night was bigger than this one. I'd still shoot the 150 because you're in a time crunch too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. And that my binocular glass is great. My spotting scope glass, not so great. So that will be a detriment to try and
Christmas. Save your money. That's the most important thing for Eastern Plains. And I'm going Wednesday to Gunnison Basin, and I got a Vortex HD razor, whatever, the best I could afford, because that makes the difference.
Oh, it does.
Looking for really big deer.
It does.
And that makes the difference.
I've made a little rule for myself, though, not to let my wife in on the cost of optics because she has no idea, and it's an investment. And I read something the other day. Oh, what the heck was it? I was reading the Sheep magazine. What's his name? Well-known author. He's written a lot. And he was told early on that good optics cost you nothing, because bad optics could cost you the hunt of a lifetime. Craig Boddington wrote that. He wrote that. And he said, and he got it from somebody else, and I can't quote the person he got it from, but that's what he said. He said, good optics cost you nothing. Good optics weigh nothing, because without good optics, it could cost you a hunt of a lifetime. And I got an email out to Vortex. I'm just hoping we can work a deal and chat with them a little bit, trying to get a.
Yeah, they're pretty good. But that's just you just have to.
Yeah.
Try to work your deals.
Yeah. And so, all right, we got some animals spotted. Let's say we've got them in the creek bed. I mean, we're out 1,000 yards, 2,000 yards, or whatever. A long way.
Is it morning?
Yeah. Morning hunt. We've got some spotted. Kind of just milling around. Mule deer, because that's what I'd really like. I'd love a 170 plus mule deer, and that's what it says trophy potential in that area. I'd say 160 plus is trophy potential, but for me, but let's say we got some mule deer spotted. in a dry creek bed or a fence line. In that open country, what's my approach?
How many other trucks are around you?
None. Got it to myself.
Okay. Where's the wind?
We're going from the west. Wind's blowing from the west.
Okay.
And we're coming in from the south.
Okay. Where's the sun?
The access is to the south. It's morning, so rising in the east.
Okay. So you're kind of, to see them, are you looking to the sun or are they looking?
I'm looking north, so might
Sideways.
have, yeah, we'll say, we'll say we're kind of looking north at them.
Okay. Because sun's important. Okay. One, you want sun in your favor, so you want the wind on your nose and the sun at your back as best you can. Okay. You want to have knee pads on just because cactus hurts. You want to have leather gloves on because cactus hurts. And you want to be able to, belly crawl if you have to. You want to use all the topography you have so they can't see you. You use the terrain and you might have to crawl, and that's okay. But you use the terrain to get you into the shootable, I don't know, can you shoot 300, 400 yards, 500 yards?
I would like to be under 400.
Okay. So 400 yards or under. So you get your rangefinder. You know how close you have to be because you've seen the deer. He's a shooter. Now you come back and say, okay, where's 400 yards? Where do I have to get to? Okay, it's that clump of sage. It's that fence post. It's that whatever. And say, that's my goal. Now I have to figure how to get there undetected. And the other thing is he going to move, or is he just chasing, hanging with the does and having a great time? And so, you get a lot of variables. So you have to put all those things and figure out, okay, what's my best approach? And if he bails, which way is he going to go? Okay, because if for whatever reason he's going to bail, is he going to go away from you? Is he going to go to the west? Is he going to go to the east? Is he going to come at you? I don't know. So you have to figure, it's a lot of stuff to figure out, okay, if this doesn't work so good, which way is he going to meander up this giant creek bed? Okay. Or which way is he going to go towards getting away from me? And you got to try to figure that out. So if he starts to lead, then you already got your secondary plan, how to loop on him, keeping the wind, in your favor, and just do a huge loop until he crosses a fence line.
Okay. So here's what I got.
Which you have to figure in also.
Right. So far I got, in that scenario, I'm looking at a little piece right now. Just got a little dry creek bed going through. It's, 2 sections, and the access I looked at, I was like, well, it's got 2 county roads bordering it on the west and on the south. So in that situation, I probably want to access from the south in there, with that wind would then be in my face, the sun would be at my back, and access it that way, glass and crawl up that fence line, glass into the creek bed. And okay, I think I could do that. Just trying to figure out that's a different way of thinking, or a way I didn't think about it. I guess I've thought about the sun, about antelope hunting. Why would I not do it here? It's the same concept.
Yeah, same concept. And you're wide open prairie, and you're hunting mule deer and whitetail in wide open prairie. You're hunting just like similar techniques to antelope, except antelope, typically they just run. They just run away. Deer may or may not do that. Mule deer bucks will jump, they'll start away and they'll get to a ridge and they'll look back. Boom.
Yeah.
More mule deer died that way.
Yeah, no kidding. So I have also found a couple of little tree belts, cover, whatever it is. All it's got to be is about 3 foot high, and there's cover there. Yep. I can't tell the height of any of this vegetation, but there's some there in a creek bed, and then that I did see a couple little shelter belts. But what might be a mule deer's activity throughout the day, from beginning of the day to the end, and going from where's his movement from the egg fields to the cover to what are you thinking?
Well, I would, if I found some shelter belts, I'd get up there and I glass and see, okay, there's probably, I'm thinking that's a great bedding area. So, okay, how's he coming in and how's he coming out? Where's he feeding? And just don't even go in the shelter belt and jump them. Just sit where you can be undetected by the wind and just sit there. Even if you have to sit there all day, if you know he's in there and you can see 360 around that shelter belt, there's no way he can get out without you seeing him, then I'm sitting there if he's a shooter.
Right. Okay. Yeah, just trying to play so many different scenarios in my head and scrolling around Onyx trying to look at a piece and
and you just got to be smart. I remember one buck I shot in long time ago. I heard, in the dark, I heard them fighting in this aspen grove, and it wasn't that big of aspen grove, and it wasn't that far from the trailhead, and I heard them fighting, and I went, "Those are two bucks fighting." So I got up and I got downwind from them, and I sat there all day to the night. And one marked out. I don't know where the other one went, but one marked out and I shot him. But I sat there all day, and people were walking by, blah, 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 blah. And I just sat there because I knew they were there.
Right.
And so I just sat, waited. He stood up, gave me a shot, end game. But that was patience rather than say, "Oh, I'm going to see if I can jump and get in there." I didn't need to. They had been fighting. They weren't colossal deer. Didn't matter. I was shooting mule deer.
Yeah,
it didn't matter.
Well, that'd be a cool scenario. So then my next challenge is figuring out exactly which type of terrain to focus on. We've got this state trust land that's open with a little bit of that rolling hills in there, dry creek beds, and they could be hiding pretty well. And then you've got the irrigation or the irrigation pivots and the egg land and some dry creek beds and whatever fields according to the Go Hunt. It looks like a variety of field crops of some sort: wheatgrass, blue grama, buffalo grass, corn, alfalfa, milo, whatever it is. So it looks like I got a variety of those crops, and then I've got this open terrain. I mean, I'm going to show up there in the dark, and that's going to be the first. I'm going to be sitting on one of these waypoints before I lay any eyes on this entire unit, and somebody's going to call me an idiot for doing that. But that's all I got. That's my option. I have no other option.
You got to be on a ridge, right?
Yeah.
You got to be glassing, okay?
So do I choose?
Glassing. And then you got to choose, okay, look at the wind, look at the moon, look at the sun, look what time the sun's come up, all the stuff, figure out, okay. And then you say, okay, where am I going to start? Okay, I've got these options. You said you had 25 places. Okay, I've got option one. So you just plan it out. Okay, here's my plan. I'm going to go to this waypoint. This is where I'm going to glass because this is a pivot. This is good food. I expect to see does and bucks eating and then moving X way away.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I would go to the best food source that I can pre-identify and sit on that and see what happens.
Okay. That's where I was leaning. I'd love to hit that open country a little bit more because there I'll actually be able to put some miles in if I need to. But I get in that habit. Yeah, but
you don't want to walk 50 miles.
I know, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary in this kind of terrain. Yeah. And I take that back, not 25. I got 13 game plans, 13 options. So, 13 different places. Some of them are going to get a little higher on the list once I get to actually choose them. But yeah, like you said, I'll take maybe half of those and say, all right, these are my options, and then let the
Chips really fall.
let the wind and the
morning night I'm glass. Morning and night I'm glassing.
Yeah.
Okay. Daylight hours I'm roving.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm getting excited about it.
You should. You're gonna get a good deer. You're gonna get a good deer.
I got another hunt in between now and then, archery hunt in South Dakota, and then I know what you're dealing with today, so it's making me want to get out and just. I probably need to go shoot my rifle.
Yeah, I'm heading to the range right now.
Yeah, I will go shoot it and double check, and then we did an episode with CPW, a gentleman that did a lot of long range shooting schools, and so I'll be doing some practice in the house with just dry firing, and he said do that over and over and over again. That's what I need to do, but I also need to be shooting my bow. But oh well, it's been
a pleasure talking with you, Clint, and I look forward to seeing the pictures.
Yeah, and you as well. I know you're off to a pretty good hunt. Make sure you send something.
I'm going. I told the outfitter, I said, I'm going big or you're going home. He said, really? I go, yeah. I have no desire. If it's not, a wall hanger, I ain't shooting it.
There you go. But I appreciate your time, Bruce, and
thank you.
I hope the day goes better and you're shooting.
I'm going to find out in about 5 minutes.
Yep. Hope your guns are shooting straight and no more issues, and I hope you have a great hunt.
Okay.
This is God's country.